Semen retention is one of those subjects that instantly polarizes people. It's the moment you bring it up, half the audience laughs. The other half grows curious, and a small number lean forward because they sense there is more to it than superstition or strange internet culture. Beneath the jokes and resistance lies something powerful. That something is the magnetic presence that builds when a man chooses to channel rather than drain his most primal energy. It is not just about what happens inside his body, but also about how the world begins to respond to him in ways he may never have experienced before. Respect flows more easily. Women notice him without knowing why. Authority seems to settle on his shoulders. This is not fantasy. It is the raw observation of countless men who have tested this path. And if you want to go deeper into this topic and connect with others who are actively exploring it, make sure to join the Telegram group linked in the description. There you will find unfiltered conversations that would never be allowed on mainstream platforms. So let us begin with the simple but provocative question. Why does holding back something as private and personal as semen make such a difference in how the world perceives you? If you strip away all the moral preaching and mystical exaggerations, what remains is a set of behavioral and social effects that can be explained through science, psychology, and lived experience. For thousands of years, human beings were shaped by the twin pressures of survival and reproduction. Every instinct, every gesture, every habit is still influenced by those ancient drives. When a man dissipates his seed frequently, he signals unconsciously that he indulges in instant release, that he drains rather than stores, that he is reactive rather than grounded. Energy in the animal kingdom speaks louder than words. When a man retains, something inside him begins to shift. His posture becomes firmer, his gaze steadier, his voice calmer, yet more resonant. He begins to project a subtle gravity. People around him sense it without knowing why. Think about the last time you saw someone walk into a room and command attention without speaking. There are men who can do this effortlessly. And then there are men who try very hard to be seen, wearing expensive clothes, raising their voices, flaunting status symbols, yet somehow they remain forgettable. The difference is presence. Presence cannot be faked. It's carried inside. Retention forces you to carry what most men waste. That hidden reservoir radiates out as a signal of weight and substance. And the human brain is wired to pick up on such signals faster than it picks up on words. Neuroscience reminds us that the brain is a prediction machine. It constantly scans for cues about stability, strength, and trustworthiness. Microsignals such as eye contact, breathing rhythm, facial tension, and vocal tone tell us more than 1,000 words. When a man is drained and restless, those signals reveal it instantly. When a man practices retention, those signals change. He's no longer swinging between depletion and crash. He carries a steadiness that others can anchor to. In a world of overstimulation and distraction, steadiness is rare. That rarity draws respect without effort. But the controversial side is attraction. Many skeptics scoff at the claim that retention makes a man more appealing to women. They insist attraction is only about looks, money, or status, and while those factors matter, they miss the deeper layer. Women are tuned to pick up on vitality, discipline, and self-control. Retention amplifies those qualities. Women may not rationally explain it, but they feel it. Countless men report that once they commit to retention, women begin holding longer eye contact. Conversations open more smoothly, and strangers respond with more warmth. They have not changed their haircut or bought new clothes. What has changed is the invisible frequency they carry. Evolutionary psychology sharpens this point. In tribal history, the male who mastered his impulses was the one trusted to lead. He could not be swayed by every urge. He was steady in crisis. That signaled to the tribe that he was valuable. Traction is tied to this ancient signal. The paradox is powerful. By not indulging, the man communicates abundance. By restraint, he communicates strength. By holding back, he communicates forward direction. These signals are ancient and biological. They still operate beneath the surface, even in a modern world that pretends to ignore them. Imagine a simple scene. Two men sit in a cafe. One lives in cycles of instant gratification. He laughs too loudly. He fidgets. He checks his phone again and again. The other has been practicing retention. He sits calmly. He drinks slowly. His gaze is steady. When he looks at someone, he he really looks. A woman enters. Which man is she more drawn toward? Not in a rational checklist way, but in the quiet, instinctive way that attraction actually works. The answer is obvious. That is what makes retention so provocative. It transforms presence in a way you cannot fake. Still, retention is not a magic pill. It is not a shortcut. It amplifies what you already are. It gives you raw material. What you do with that material decides the outcome. If you retain but spend your days lost in distraction, you will not become magnetic. If you retain and channel the energy into training your body, focusing your mind, building your craft, and deepening your social interactions, then the magnetism becomes undeniable. Retention is a catalyst. You are the sculptor. The mainstream narrative resists this. Our culture insists indulgence equals freedom, tells men that constant release is normal, that discipline in this area is repression. But what if the truth is inverted? What if the real prison is addiction to release? What if true freedom is found in mastery? The ability to sit with your own energy rather than escape it, the power to transform it rather than scatter it. That thought alone is enough to shake modern assumptions, and it is why this practice is so heavily mocked or dismissed. Science, psychology, and tradition all converge here. Whether you interpret it through biology, through social signals, or through ancient wisdom, the results repeat. Men who retain report feeling grounded, clear, respected, and more attractive. Anecdotes alone may not count as proof, but when you hear them across cultures, across centuries, and across disciplines, they are not so easy to dismiss. Why then does society bury this knowledge? Perhaps because a man who controls his own impulses becomes less controllable by others. He no longer needs constant entertainment. He no longer chases every cheap thrill that fuels entire industries. He becomes harder to manipulate. That man is dangerous to the system. And perhaps that is why the truth is covered in laughter and ridicule. So what do we conclude? Retention builds a magnetic presence because it shifts physiology, psychology, and social energy at the same time. It changes how you stand, breathe, and look. It builds discipline. It fuels purpose. It signals to men and women alike that you are not a slave to urges. In a world where most people are slaves to something, that difference makes you stand out. The man who chooses retention becomes rare, and rarity is magnetic. The deeper question is whether you are willing to test this for yourself, to sit with discomfort, to face urges head-on, to use that energy rather than waste it. If you do, you will find yourself transformed, not by tricks or hacks, but by the gravity of your own presence. Respect flows naturally. Attraction follows without effort. This is not theory. It is the lived reality of men who dared to try. If you have stayed with me this far, you already feel that this subject touches more than just personal habits. It touches the core of what it means to be a man in a distracted age. It is about reclaiming a strength modern society has forgotten. It is about building a presence that cannot be ignored. If you are ready to explore further, remember to check the Telegram link in the description. And if this message spoke to you, consider supporting through the thanks button below. Even the smallest contribution makes a difference. Your support fuels more work like this. Presence is not something you chase. It is something you build, day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment.